Oke, Detikers, kita akan ngobrolin satu buku yang
Yes.
ditulis oleh seorang aktivis. Banyak sih sebenarnya beliau nih, gak cuma aktivis doang.
Yes.
Dari riset yang gue lakukan, beliau nih ada hold degree juga untuk
Oh, wow.
master di international business and has been
wow.
focusing on Muslim and halal economy. Jadi seorang
Wow.
ekonom juga dan
Wow.
juga seorang yang punya ban hitam di taekwondo.
Oh, ban
Wow.
hitam di taekwondo. Wow. So the guest for today is
Guzelya Marisova, please welcome. Welcome to Detik Sore.
Waalaikumsalam. Yeah,
What
of
can we call you?
course.
Guzelya?
Yeah, Guzelya.
Marisova.
is good.
Guzelya.
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 Yeah.
Guzelya. Okay, so
Guzelya Marisova was born and raised in Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
And you know what? I just went to Azerbaijan last
Oh,
week.
okay, that's
And
nearby.
Azerbaijan is also the neighborhood from Kazakhstan, right?
Correct.
Is it the language the same with Turkish, Azerbaijan, and Kazakhstan?
So Azerbaijan is part of the Turkic group of languages, similar to Kazakh. But then also we all speak Russian because it's a former USSR countries,
okay.
right? So the main language was Russian, and up until today, everyone speaks very fluently
As
Russian.
well as in Kazakhstan.
Yes.
So you know when we say Tunaydin?
Günaydın, yeah. I mean, that one is more similar to Turkish, but we understand it, yeah.
You understand
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I understand it.
Gunaidin. And what satu lagi?
Gunaydin and Tunaydin. Tunaydin is selamat sore, right?
Oh, okay, so yeah, Tun, yeah.
Tunaydin.
Oh, tun
I
sore.
understand it because I'm ethnically Uyghur, and
Okay.
Uyghurs are
Yeah,
also Turkic group. I mean, just like similar to Kazakhs, but the language is more similar to, a little more similar towards Turkish and Azeri. Yeah, so that's why it's quite
So,
simple.
so you don't speak Turkish or other language, but you understand when
Correct,
we talk
yeah.
about it. Okay.
A lot of words are similar.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay,
So
now we're going to talk about this very
The
strong book by its title.
yes,
Story of
the
the
story
Stolen
of
Homes.
stolen
And
homes. So
it's become more interesting when we saw the translator named Zaskia
Zaskia
Adiameka,
Yes.
Yeah.
the wife of Hanung Bramantyo,
Yes.
the most popular director in Indonesia. Can you share us the story about this book a bit to be a short brief to our Detikers?
Yeah, so Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So in fact, I wanted to write children's books ever since I became a mom. For me, it was really important to share the stories of Uyghur people. And last year, I did a research for around a year, and I finally found an illustrator that could work on this book.
All right.
But then we decided to start the illustrations in October. And as you know, last year, October 7th, the situation in Palestine escalated.
yes.
And I personally, I'm pretty sure, just like all of you, I was depressed. And I didn't know how to continue my project. And at this moment, I realized, like, subhanAllah, in order to keep up with the storytelling, in order to continue my project, I need to do something about Palestine, something that is more sustainable. And this is where the idea of writing a story for Palestine came in. By collaborating with Palestinian experts, Palestinian people, those who actually own these stories. And another way, it was like in a way healing for me, because seeing all this children dying in rubble, it was obviously it is really difficult to continue living a normal life. This was also a way to diversify the charity because people, they donate over and over, but at a certain moment they start to have the donations fatigue,
I see.
where they don't know what else next because they keep on donating but the change is not happening. So we need to try to find ways to diversify on how people can still contribute to Palestinian cause. So the book was one of them, and the story is an inspiration from an expo in an Institute of Arab World in Paris that I went. I go there quite often. I'm from Paris, but
You went all the way from Paris to Palestine?
No. So that's what's happening in the book.
Okay.
So yeah, so the inspiration was like a few years ago when I was in Paris and this expo. It was about Syrian refugees, and then I thought, what if one day it will be an expo about Palestine? But instead of just an expo with pictures, it could be a virtual immersive reality experience, and the person that would be telling the story would be a real child, but in a form of a hologram. So that's basically a plot twist of this book, where in the beginning we don't mention that it's a hologram, it's a Palestinian child that will be bringing the visitors around the tour to tell a story of her stolen homes, and at the end we'll find out that actually she's not a human anymore, she's a hologram because she passed away during the war.
Okay.
It's rim.
Yes.
It's rim. Oh wow. Yeah.
Udah menemukan sesuatu yang interesting.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting when we talk. This book are about the journey to the Palestine, right? And you are also from Uyghur.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which quite have a quite similar story about what they pass in Palestine, right?
Correct, yeah. So Uyghurs are currently passing a genocide, but the Uyghur cause is less known than Palestinian cause for a few reasons. Number one, obviously, China is really good at controlling, the whatever is happening there. So, and they don't have access to Meta in order to post like on what's happening, right? Just like unlike in Palestine. So this is the reason why. And another thing, Palestinian cause is directly related to a Muslim cause. It's about Baitul Maqdis, the Holy Land. So that is why it's also more known.
Yeah.
But there are many nations that are passing through horrible injustices around the world, right? And in order to liberate one, we need to focus on liberating everyone. And the story of the stolen homes is actually not only about Palestine. It's the same story that is relatable to every other nation that is passing through oppression and genocide. And in my case, obviously being a representative of the Uyghur nation, it was important for me to speak up for Palestinian cause because we are all in the same struggle. We're not in a competition to compare who's struggling more than the other, but we need to be together in this. So, and Alhamdulillah, being in Indonesia, the country that is loudly supporting Palestinian cause, it was also very empowering. And as you can see, that is the reason why also Zaskia Mecca, being a forefront of someone who's been speaking up for Palestinian cause for decades.
Yeah.
When she heard about the book, she's like, I love the idea of, teaching children about social change. And then she's like, I can translate it. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Seriously, so she's the one who want to translate this first. Not you, the one who asked her to translate it.
I definitely did ask her because I was thinking about who could be the person who could translate it, right?
Okay.
I need to make sure that I collaborate with Indonesian people so that it's accessible to Indonesian audience. Being based here, I know that such a book will be needed because I have friends that are looking for books like that, right? And then I was thinking, and I have, alhamdulillah, quite a lot of friends, but Zaskia is like a
So much more.
she's like a super activist, right?
Yes.
So I just asked her like, hey, let me send you a draft. What do you think? And she's like, I'm in. I'm like, okay, awesome. So
Very
it's like
cool.
when you're like-hearted, it just matches. And alhamdulillah, she was she liked the. And by the way, I'm having a second book, inshallah,
Second
soon.
book?
Yes,
Okay.
it's gonna be about Uyghur people.
Okay.
And obviously like Zaskia, she was also not that aware about Uyghur situation there.
okay.
But then after working with her on the first book and we created some impact and we're happy about it, I told her like, hey, before I ask someone else, would you be interested? And she's like, I'm in. I'm like, okay, girl. So alhamdulillah, I'm really happy that we can do this kind of an activism together.
Okay.
Yeah, I see. It's interesting. But what is your top of mind if you think about Palestine?
Top of mind about
Palestina?
What's your top of mind when we
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah, when we
Palestine?
talk about-
We are quite interesting to know what is your top mind
Yeah.
about Palestine when we talk about Palestine.
Yeah, for me, Palestinians are impressive people. It's like being chosen in this 21st century where we have so much distraction and comfort around the world, being placed in such a oppression, and being not having access to any basic human needs. I think it's a huge challenge. And it's not easy to think on who deserves it and who does not. And being people from the Holy Land, especially for Muslim culture, it is quite a big deal, these people have resilience. These people are truly believe in God and they're not afraid to die. Whereas we live like we're gonna live forever, So for me, when I think of Palestine, what comes to top of my mind is those resilient, unapologetically Islamic and Muslim people, and not only Muslim,
Very
but Christians as
resilient.
well.
Yeah.
The way they treat their religion, the way they treat their faith is beyond that anyone around us is, experiencing and practicing. Yeah.
I see.
Do you think Uyghurian and Palestinian can have their freedom like in the near future?
Yeah.
According to your humble opinion?
I'm not an expert in geopolitics in order to predict, right? But inshallah, I do believe.
Inshallah.
Because that's, first of all, is a prophecy.
Yeah.
And secondly, I believe that, human nation is improving.
Yeah,
We're becoming more conscious. We're becoming more understanding towards each other. So I believe with this type of path, and then also rhythm, and also creating literature that would motivate the future generation to be even more unapologetic and fight injustice, I believe yes, the future has a hope, inshallah.
Right. Also with the big support from Indonesia, right?
Definitely, Indonesia must be the forefront of this cause, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
That's why also this book is the first translation from this book is Indonesia.
In Bahasa, right?
Correct.
Is it because of the Indonesian people are very forced to very eager to support Palestinians' freedom, or what do you see when you choose to translate it to Indonesia first?
Actually, I think it's just a lucky situation because I'm just based here, right? So I'm based here. Of course, I live here. My husband is Indonesian. So for me, when I wrote the book, I wrote it in English. But then obviously I started to think like, okay, I'm in Indonesia. Not many people read English books here, you know.
Yes.
It must be available in Indonesian. So that's where I spoke to Zaskia, right? And then she was, interested to be part of this. But I believe if I were outside of Indonesia, I don't think I would know how much Indonesians are passionate about the cause.
Really?
And of course, because I don't know if you noticed, like some of the activists, they post a lot on how the protests are happening all around the world. But Indonesia is regarded as like just one of them, whereas we have like, millions of people on protest, right? Which is quite impressive. But why the attention is not being paid so much is because here it's peaceful. Right, compared to other countries. But and also I believe like if someone would wrote a book and then would want to translate it into Bahasa Indonesia, it would be difficult to come and do it here because understanding Indonesian market is quite tough as well, right? It's a very complicated, very huge market. But that's what I'm saying. I just was lucky. Really? I think once you do things for a good cause, God puts things in such a way where you don't even know how it happened. Like even Nura, I didn't know the guys, that published the book. But when we got when we got the book ready and we got to meet them, and the first meeting we were like, okay, we're in, we're doing it in Ramadan. So alhamdulillah.
So it's already published.
It's already.
Yes, it was published in Ramadan.
This Ramadan, right?
Yes, in March. Then in May we published the English one, and just a few. This month actually, last month in the 1st November we launched the French one in Paris.
The French one.
So different cover, yeah.
Different cover, different color. Do you have any, the special meaning with each color by the book?
Actually, in fact, we were planning to have just this cover. This was the first cover, and this cover happened because of the we were doing everything in rush. We wanted to make sure it's published quickly in Ramadan to get the barakah, And then once we did it, then I saw some of the Jewish Zionist, unfortunately, actresses. She wrote a book for children with the night skies, a little similar to this, and with the shooting stars, and it's called, if I'm not mistaken, Under Shooting Stars, and that's to show that the bombing Palestinians is okay because they deserve that.
Wow!
And I was really angry, seeing that they're brainwashing their own children in a very violent way.
So this is like the confrontation.
Exactly, this is like a confrontation because it's a global version. So I wanted to make sure it kind of, shows that. But then, subhanAllah, when we launched the French one, I was invited by the Grand Mosque of Paris to speak about the book, and one of the panelists was a anti-Zionist rabbi, a Jewish rabbi.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, so he, at the end of the session, he came to me and was like, "Sister, I really like the story. It should be available in Hebrew." And I'm like, okay, brother, who gonna read it?
Yeah.
But subhanAllah, he says obviously half of Israel are the opposition.
Yeah.
And what's happening globally, what we see is not what the country stands for necessarily, right? Not the population stands for.
We heard that.
And then I'm happy that in my book I'm not saying Israel jihad, because we don't know what people inside are thinking, right?
We stand for humanity.
Exactly.
Not for a special country or
exactly. We need to judge the actions that are being committed, not the people, because among the people there are good ones and the bad ones. That's the human nature. So so now the book is being translated into Hebrew, and potentially might be published in Israel. So I don't know, but it's kind of a quite interesting turn of events because I could imagine any language but not Hebrew.
Yes.
Hebrew.
It's
Saya juga lumayan kaget sih, kayak orang Israel juga pengen baca buku ini ternyata. Tapi benar bahwa sebenarnya apa yang dilakukan oleh Israel itu tidak mengatasnamakan penduduknya tapi negara tersebut gitu.
Betul.
That's why we nggak jadi.
Boleh jadi nggak?
Nggak jadi aja.
Nggak jadi.
Jadi,
Oke.
Ini adalah buku pertama, buku kedua akan segera diluncurkan. When will the second book will be released?
Yeah, so hoping in the next few months, so before
Next
Ramadan.
few-
Yeah.
Before
Okay.
Ramadan.
Next
Oke.
year.
Next
Next
year
year.
before
Next year.
Ramadan it's March.
Iya,
Or February.
Before that. But
Okay.
this basically Eldar and Elnor series, we will be always talking about cultural preservation.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
yeah, so it will be always about marginalized communities, right?
Yeah.
The main characters are Uyghurs from France, which is Eldar and Elnor, and then of course first book which speak about Palestine, the second book about Uyghurs, and the third book we will also talk about another marginalized community that is facing oppression.
So Elder and Elnor is the name of Uyghurian people.
Yes.
Actually. Okay.
Oh, okay. Elder and
Oh, what a nice philosophy.
Yes.
But we.
Yes.
Because it's about representation.
Yeah,
Have you ever
represent.
seen a book, like a mainstream book that you can find in the US or in Europe that speaks about Indonesians?
Oh, not
I
yet.
think not.
I've never seen.
Nah.
Or
Yeah.
about Uyghurs. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
very
yeah,
rare.
yeah.
It's
It's
all
quite rare.
about white people. It's a colonial
Yes.
way of like,
yeah.
you know, always pushing this agenda. Non-religious, completely faith. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Then it's all about this mainstream. We call it global, but in fact, it's a Western. And if you dig it into deeper,
Yes.
it's even colonial, and even deeper, it's even pagan. So it means that it's completely against of like Abrahamic religions, for instance, you know,
Yeah.
or
yeah.
like people that faced colonization for centuries, like Indonesia.
Yeah.
So this is why for me it's really important to create a representation. My child is half Uyghur, half Indonesian. I need to make sure that he's proud of these identities, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that he feels that he's part of the community.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when
yeah.
he reads the book, he needs to associate himself with the character
Yeah,
that
yeah,
he
yeah,
reads. And this is the main reason why I started to write this kind of a
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
international
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because I
characters.
see that this book will be featured in the film maybe in the future.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
I think it will
Ya,
be good.
mungkin Mas Hanung Bramantyo ya
Oh, iya.
berencana untuk juga menjadikan ini film animasi pertamanya.
Jadi
barangkali.
suami istri ya.
Yeah, maybe
Boleh
Mas.
Trans TV request, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe after Zaskia Meka translated into another book, Mas Hanung Bramantyo as her husband can translate it into a film or into a movie.
I think it will be great.
Animated
yeah.
movie maybe.
Yeah, we already get a few requests, in fact.
Oh, really?
We're not rushing into that because
yeah.
our objective is not about creating a hype, but it's more about the sustainable way of instilling the social justice in children. And so far, like I recently went to as well to Qatar, and then we had also some of the collaborations coming soon,
Yeah.
which is also about representation and social justice with children's literature. So I think it is really important to collaborate with governments, with schools, to actually create a strong foundation about social justice among children.
Yeah.
Okay, now last for everyone that read this book, what the message like you wanna tell them?
Yeah. So in fact, the title of the book is called "Story of the Stolen Homes."
Yes.
So when we read the title, we understand that it's about somebody's home being stolen, right? And
Yes.
the reason why I chose this title so that children can relate. If we talk about
Which
land,
very cruel.
exactly. If we talk about land, children will not understand. But if we talk about home, they will.
Yeah.
But at the end of the story, I mentioned three things that are actually important in life, which are faith, family, and freedom.
Faith, family, and freedom.
Faith,
And they are
family,
nothing
freedom,
that
yes.
is related to home.
Wow.
What
Yeah.
I'm trying to pass as a message here is that we might lose the physical place that we think is home. But our actual home are three things: our values, our family, our belonging, right? And then also
Exactly.
our freedom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the message from me as well to the
That's-
others.
That means
That's-
very
yeah,
big for Indonesia.
yeah.
Actually, that we have to be grateful for our. We can keep our faith here.
Yes.
We have freedom here.
Yes.
We can share love here.
Yeah.
Which maybe our other Palestinians fellow maybe not feeling very well about that. Right.
Yes. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Guzelya
for
Marisova.
coming here.
Thank you as well for having
But
me.
maybe you can share a bit about when did you start writing? Since I saw that you are also holding a ban hitam in Taekwondo,
Oh, yeah.
Oh
and
yeah,
you're also
yeah.
an activist and also an economist.
I wouldn't call like economist a businesswoman, okay?
Okay.
Economist is more of an academician, right? But yeah, I mean, I am a business strategist. I do still practice. I just recently stopped the corporate world because I wanted to
Okay.
focus on writing books more. But yeah, writing has always been in my life. When I was a kid, I used to, have those diaries where I would write about things, my dreams, things that
See.
happen, analyze, some people, and then I would basically, keep on consistently doing it. And I did participate in like creating some of the essays or creating an article for research papers and stuff like that. And I knew one day I would write a book, but I would imagine more like a novel, like a dystopian novel, and hopefully one day it will happen. But when you become a mother, crazy things happen, right? So I got inspired to create a story that my child would feel relevant about, and that's how a dream to write children's book came in. And also there were a few inspirations along the way, obviously like traveling here and there. But I didn't know how to start it, right? So it took me a year to actually understand, okay, so I need to have my story, then I need to have an illustrator that can actually visualize my ideas.
Yes.
And Alhamdulillah, Agia Putri, she's amazing. She's an Indonesian illustrator that illustrated my books. And then of course, when this kind of a situation with Palestine happened, this was more of like my way of self-healing. Like what could I do for Palestine, So, and it was basically my first book. And Alhamdulillah, I'm quite happy because I do feel better in terms of my nightmares and, all of the depression that I had regarding what's happening in Palestine. But also it helped me to connect with amazing activists around the world, including like Zaskia, right? Like people who are actually unapologetically supporting the cause and using a very various tools to contribute to the country and the victims of the war.
All right, thank you so much,
Thank you
Guzelya
so much. Thank you as
Marisova,
well.
Yes.
for coming to Detik Sore dan Detikers. Untuk kalian yang penasaran sama buku ini, it's already published in
The
any
bookstore.
store in
Yes,
Indonesia,
all the
right?
Gramedia shops you can find it, and in any what is it called, e-commerce, you can just type
Alright.
story of the stolen homes, and inshallah you will find.
Alright.
Oke.
Jadi online, offline,
Online,
ini semua
offline
sudah
bisa
tersedia.
ya. Tinggal kalau online tinggal diketik aja The Story of Stolen Homes langsung keluar.
Benar sekali. Terima kasih juga buat Detikers yang sudah menyaksikan
Yay.
Detik Sore dari jam 5:30 sampai jam 6
6
sore
sore
ini.
ini.
Kita harus pamit dulu.
Yes. Tapi kan besok kita bakalan datang lagi
Oh
nih.
iya benar. Besok
gitu
ada
kan.
lagi tentunya
Besok
di
ada
jam yang
lagi
sama
di
Detikers.
jam yang sama. Terima kasih.
So we have tagline anyway.
Oh ya.
Can you help us to close this program with when we say Detik
Detik
Sore,
Sore.
you can say
Gak cuma hore-hore.
Gak
it's
cuma hore-hore.
Hore-hore, yes.
I
Gak
hope
cuma
this
hore-hore.
fit you well with our Indonesian
Yes.
language. Thank you so much Detikers. Kita besok ketemu lagi tentunya cuma di Detik Sore.
Gak cuma hore-hore.